Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Rodman Reef from Reef Karson Consulting. Welcome, Rodman.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Nice to be here.
Rodman, to get us started, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your background in the payments industry, and the work that you do at Reef Karson Consulting?
Sure. So I've been in the payments industry for a long time. I started when I was at Citigroup. I spent 32 years at Citi. The last 20, I built a global payment business for them as chairman and CEO of a subsidiary called CitiShare Corporation. I left Citi several years ago, and I opened my own consulting business, which you heard the name of. It's Reef Karson Consulting, and I do consulting in a range of activities in the payment space, everything from strategy to operations. And I've worked for several of the major card networks. I've worked for some of the central banks, and I've worked for large and small merchants. I've worked for fintechs. So I've worked across the ecosystem. And I also served on the Fed's Faster Payments Task Force, and I've co-authored papers on fraud for the U.S. Payments Forum and on cross-border payments for the Faster Payments Council.
Wow, that is an impressive list. We are just so grateful to have you here today. You certainly have a wealth of experience and knowledge, and we hope to glean some of that from you today. So to get started, I just wanted to ask you, what is the most notable trend that you're seeing in the payments industry today?
I would say there are about 3 or 4 things that are particularly notable at a high level. The first one, of course, is the move to instant payments or real-time payments. Mm-hmm. The second one is the introduction into the marketplace of buy now, pay later, which is funny because if you go back to either our parents' or grandparents' time, that was really called Christmas clubs. Of course, BNPL is a little bit different because with Christmas Club, you paid in and then you got your product. These days, you get your product at the same time as you start your payments. So it's a little different, but that is a change in the landscape. And the other piece that I think is important for folks to think about is that if you go back 15 or 20 years ago, and maybe even less, what was a payment tool for retail customers like you and me was very different and not used by corporations. And the tools that corporations used were not used by retail customers. That is changing a great deal. The tools are bleeding over from one market to the other. Mm-hmm. And some examples are clearly instant payments are an example which is happening in both the retail space and the corporate space. You've got push to card, similar to faster payments, which is happening in both spaces. And of course, the use of cards on the corporate side is happening in many areas, including the use of cards to reduce accounts payable paperwork. So the split between retail and wholesale is really not nearly as fine a line as it was 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Those are really the 3 or 4 things that I would talk about as the trends.
Yeah, things are definitely changing very rapidly right now. I think we've seen more changes in the last, let's say, 5 years than they've seen probably in the last 20. I don't know, but you could speak to that better than I could. But lots of innovation, lots of change. So my next question for you is, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for organizations that process payments?
The first thing is to support instant payments, including the new service called Request for Payment. I would say that clearly is a big opportunity and will take a lot of work. for many organizations that process payments to support both of those items. The second one, which is what I mentioned a moment ago, which is support for BNPL, buy now, pay later. And the third one is reducing cross-border payment friction. There is that is probably in the payment business one of the areas, if not the area, with the most amount of friction still exists for both consumers and corporates. And and it's an area that has begun to get a lot of focus, and I think will continue to get a lot of focus. It is an area where there have been a good number of fintechs have looked at that space over the last 10 years or so, and I suspect that there'll be more. But it's an area where you're going to see, I think, a lot of innovation, and it's an area that's ripe for a lot of innovation and disruption. I might just give an example where both the clearinghouse in New York with their RTP system, as well as the ECB in Europe and some others have actually done a cross-border instant payment pilot. So there is a tremendous amount of opportunity there to reduce the level of friction and to make things easier for both retail customers and corporate customers.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So that's the biggest opportunity. Let's talk about the biggest obstacle now. What do you see as the biggest obstacle for payment processing organizations?
I think the answer there is it's simple to say, very difficult to do. It's modifying or replacing the legacy systems to support instant payments and other real-time transactions. That is, I think, a significant obstacle, very difficult to get over. Takes a lot of senior management attention, takes a lot of money, and takes a lot of work to do that.
And what we're seeing here at BHMI, in most cases, those legacy applications, they've been in place for the last 20 years, maybe even longer. So making a shift away from them or replacing them or updating them is a huge effort. Well,
yes, it's a huge effort in two ways. One, it's a lot of work, and the second thing is change is difficult.
Right, but also necessary, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So as we kind of prepare to wrap up here, I just wanted to ask you if you had a piece of advice that was sort of like the silver bullet. If there was one piece of advice that you could leave our audience with today, what would that be?
I would say it's all related to instant payments, real-time payments. One is to complete the process of migrating legacy batch systems to modern, cloud-based or otherwise, systems that support real-time transactions. Do anything new in a real-time environment. And the third thing is hire and support project managers who can do the migrations on time, in budget, and provide the necessary senior management support to get those things done.
Rodman, if somebody would like to know more about the consulting work that you do at Reef Karson Consulting, would you mind sharing with them how to get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me on email at rodman.reef@reefcarsonconsulting.com. They can get hold of me through LinkedIn, and they can get hold of me at my cell, which is 917-833-8960.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time and your words of wisdom. And thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.